What's up guys, this is Chad at All Dogs Off-Road, and today we're going to be working on REBA. To catch you up to speed, REBA had a broken timing chain on the passenger side bank, and we tore down the front end and installed new timing chains and put that back together. That is not going to make it into a video. We're in our busy season right now, and I kind of bounce back and forth between our normal day-to-day activities and wrenching on REBA, and I spent some time in the weekend too, so we just didn't have the time to film that. But she's up and running, runs fantastic now, and the next part of this build is going to be a Regear. REBA would have come from the factory with 293 gears front and rear, and an R180A front diff and then an R230 rear diff. Now your mounting patterns and basically your mounting flanges and everything are just about exactly the same, with some minute exceptions that we'll talk about in a little bit. You can go and pull first gen Armada front and rear diffs from the junkyard in 3:36 ratio, which are going to be a really nice match to the 35-inch tires that we're going to be running. REBA's going to get a junkyard bolt-in Regear, bigger, beefier tires, and the nice Fox suspension that we do for this application. Let's get to it. So this is the factory R180A that came out of REBA. It is 293 geared. It's actually really surprising that Nissan put these in the Infiniti QXs and also the 2017 and up Nissan Armada. This is typically going to be found in a Nissan Frontier or Xterra, and in my personal opinion is undersized for the size and weight of the vehicle. It's got roughly just under 7¼ inch ring gear. It's really small for how big the vehicle is here. If you're going to be doing any sort of wheeling, and also, you know, if you're going to run bigger tires, this is going to be a weak link. And so this is going to be its replacement. This is an M205, which is going to be found in a first-gen Armada, and it's also going to be found in your first-gen Nissan Titans. This has closer to an 8-inch ring gear in diameter and is going to be quite a bit more stout. Another nice feature is it's going to have bolt-on axle flanges for the CVs, so if you ever have to make a change on the trail, this is much easier to access and pull and replace CVs if you ever have to do that. When you're looking at M205s, there are two case designs. There's a 2-rib, and that refers to the structural ribbing on the top of the casting here, and then there's a 3-rib. What we have here is a 2-rib, so this is technically the weaker. The 3-rib is going to be more desirable, and if I remember correctly, the 3-rib is found in 2008 and up Nissan Titans, but this is what our junkyard had, and we got both of these here at our local pick and pull for I think around $350. So this is a very budget-friendly upgrade. This is your R230 rear diff. It's pretty big and beefy. There's not much to say about it. They're about exactly the same. There's going to be no huge upgrade there beside the change in gear ratio. Doing this swap, one other thing that you'll need to source from the junkyard is going to be the front drive shaft from a first gen Armada. If you find an Armada in your junkyard, pull your diffs and then pull your front drive shaft too. One nuance to doing this swap is that on these Y62s, Nissan uses a larger flange, pinion flange on the R180 on the factory diff than what you're going to find, say, in a first gen Armada. So we've got an adapting flange that will allow us to run your front drive shaft, and that will bolt up just fine, and then you need an adapting flange to the larger flange found on the transfer case, and we will have that for sale on the website. This shouldn't be a lot of work. REBA's already pretty torn down. We shot a video previously deleting the HBMC hydraulic suspension. Part of the reason for doing, there were multiple reasons for doing that. The first was the HBMC was absolutely in the way of being able to pull the CVs or even get to the timing chain. The CVs had to come out so that the diff could come out, so that the oil pan could come out, so that we could finally start working on moving the timing cover and then working on the timing chains. So in order to do the work that we had to do, HBMC had to come out, diff had to come out, and at that point, you know, REBA's already pretty well torn down, so you're gonna miss getting to the point where REBA's ready for these bolt-ins, but let's do it. Starting with the rear diff, in order to access all the bolts we need to, you're gonna have to drop your spare tire. So that's what we're doing right now. We'll drop the spare tire, then we're gonna disconnect the CV's mounting flanges, and then we'll do our pinion flange, and the thing should drop right out. This Y62 had HBMC on it, so it didn't have sway bars. If you have a 2017 or up Armada with your traditional sway bars or an Infiniti QX with sway bars, you'll probably want to disconnect your rear sway bar too. Your rear diff is going to be very easy. All you need are 17 and 19 mils. Your frame bushings here that your diff cover has a couple of bolts that run through are 19. Your CVs are 17, and then your drive shaft is 19. Really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts, and then your CV flanges, and it'll drop right out. Have a second person if you can, because this is cast iron and it's very heavy. You'll probably see us struggle once everything is loose. It was a struggle at the junkyard, and I actually ended up having it come down and pinch my finger real bad. We'll get her loose, and then we'll slap the new one in and put new gear oil in there. We have our rear CVs disconnected, so now we're going to do our rear drive shaft. These were 17 mil, the drive shaft is going to be 19 mil. So now that we have our CVs and drive shafts disconnected, we'll be ready to unmount the 4 bolts that hold the diff in place. Or rather, there are 2 bolts here, and then there are 2 nuts here. Your forward subframe bolts here are 17 mil, and then the nuts back here that mount to the cover are 19.
Wait, what you need me to do?
Oh.
Are you gonna grab the front cap? Oh shit, that's right on there.
Oh, the fucking breather hose. Shit. You need to...
No, we get that.
Oh, good. Okay. Go straight to the ground. Good job. It's heavy. It's heavy. So there's an assembly order when you're doing your bolts and washers. You'll have your big metal washer at the bottom. Then there's little rubber dampers that will go here. Then your diff will go into place. Or I'm sorry, then your upper washer and then your diff. So it'll look basically like that. And actually, once we pin these 2 bolts in, just slide it. She makes the dream work. Okay. Pretty good. Okay. For now, we got full on. So we got our new diff all bolted in. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll connect our drive shaft and CVs. You probably saw a struggle. It is very, very heavy. So if you're doing this at home, be careful. While you're in here, one thing that you could do is, it's common for these rubber bushings to kind of wear and start to crack and fail. I can see some cracks here and here. If you want to do some extra credit, get some windshield urethane and fill the gaps here. Maybe we'll do that later on, but it'll just basically make this, you know, hollow bushing into a solid bushing, which will just give it a little bit more rigidity. Now on your rear diffs, you will have to transfer your pinion flanges. So your first gen has a male hub. You'll see that it sticks out right here. Your Y62 has a female hub, which mates to your drive shaft, so you'll need to transfer over. Thankfully, the spline count is exactly the same, so you just swap them and you should be good to go. So we lost a little bit of gear oil there, but we're going to be putting all new fresh fluid in. Yoke has been transferred. Everything feels good. We'll connect our rear drive shaft, then we'll connect our CVs, and also don't forget your diff breather tube. And then your rear is done. All right guys, now that the rear is all done, we're going to start at the front. As you can see here, we already have the front diff removed. I had to do that when we did the timing chain swap last weekend, so you're gonna miss the deconstruction here, but I'll explain it. So what you'll want to do is you have a cross member right here that, if I remember correctly, is 17mm bolts, 19mm nuts. That will drop out, and that's going to give you plenty of room for to remove the front diff. The front diff is held in by your CVs and then by 3 bolts. 1, 2, 3. So you'll pull your CVs, and then when you're ready, pull your 3 bolts. Then also don't forget your diff breather hose here, and then it will just drop right out. Assembly is just going to be the complete opposite of that. We'll lift the diff into place, put our bolts in, tighten, put the cross member in, connect our diff breather, and then finally we'll be throwing the CVs in. Should be pretty quick and pretty easy. It's so much lighter.
Oh man.
Pretty much. The magic of aluminum. So it doesn't interfere with the cam bolt, but that's okay. So as you can see, that was pretty easy. The front diff is an aluminum housing, so it's much, much lighter than the rear diff. You just hoist it into place, 3 bolts, we'll connect our diff breather, and then we'll start on the front drive shaft, which will have a little bit of modification to it. So we got our diff in. We're gonna wait to put the cross member in. We're gonna start with the CVs now. Our upper control arms are already disconnected the spindle loosely. It'll be a nice, simple process. Go and slide in and then connect it to the diff. We just finished up the front diff and the CVs, so that's all good to go. The last piece of this puzzle is going to be the front drive shaft, which connects your transfer case to your front diff. You do not reuse the Y62 front diff. You'll need to source a first gen Armada, or I'm sorry, the Y62 front drive shaft. You will need to source a first gen Armada front drive shaft, but what you'll notice is that your transfer case and your pinion flanges are larger on the Y62 than they are on the first gen Armada. Because we're using the M205, the factory first gen flange is going to work just fine. On the back, where you attach to your transfer case, case, you'll need to source a new drive shaft flange that will use the Spicer 1310 U-joints. So since we have this out, we're gonna throw new U-joints at it so that it's fresh and ready to go. She done. So we're just about done buttoning up this front drive shaft. We've got our new drive shaft yoke, I don't know what to call it, a drive shaft yoke installed, new U-joints. I still have to grease them. I'll do that once everything is bolted up, but currently just putting the front drive shaft bolts through, then everything will get torqued to spec, and then this project is basically done. Other than how heavy the diffs are, it's a pretty straightforward swap and doesn't require any custom drive shafts or anything like that. All you need is your correct yoke to use the first gen Armada front drive shaft, and transfer your pinion flange at the rear drive shaft, and that's really about it. You're following along on this journey. We're really excited about these Y62s because we've got a lot of our kits are going out for them, and so we're glad to have this one in the shop that we can build and modify along with you guys, and then shoot some content for other guys that are, you know, kind of considering doing this sort of thing. Like, subscribe, hang out, comments, questions. Peace.